The CBC I Want is a national, public, interactive, rich media, collaborative platform to enable a great conversation in this country. People think the digital revolution makes a public broadcaster less important. Au contraire, it's more important. Furthermore, my CBC needs to reinvent itself to become a truly interactive, multimedia platform. And the viewer and listener, to me, become users. That's why I think that we need to protect the CBC, invest in the CBC, and help the CBC go through this transition from being a traditional broadcaster to a public media company.
The CBC I Want will tell the story about ordinary Canadians from coast to coast, and that's what will bring us together as a country, and that's what will make the CBC strong.
Please, the CBC that I want, bring back and increase investigative reporting that is neutral, intelligent, and not full of sound bites.
I've lived in 4 different provinces at least twice, and one of the commonalities between them all was CBC. I like the core values that they have. I think they're extremely important in soothing the regionalism that is in this country, which without CBC I think would eventually tear it apart. I think there's a river of sensibility that goes through this country because of CBC.
Well, we know from polling that about 80% of Canadians really like public broadcasting, so that's not an issue. The issue is what can be done to get the most bang for the buck. How can we make public broadcasting effective going forward? So this is about harnessing and engaging Canadians to talk about what kind of public broadcaster they want in the second decade of the 21st century.
The CBC I Want is really an acute, perceptive, passionate, connective tissue.
The type of CBC I want is to be one that's national. It goes from coast to coast and tells the local stories, the unique stories, to the entire country.
This country is so amazing. Canadians are such a very diverse, exciting, volatile, creative group of people.
Across the board, the role that the CBC plays is to make sure that, at the very least, unique local stories in Iqaluit, in Victoria, in Stratford, in Waterloo, out in Sydney, Cape Breton. These stories, if there's something very unique, if the group of citizens are doing something innovative, just captivating, take that story, tell it to the entire country.
There has to be a connective tissue. There has to be something that reflects our pulse, our heartbeat, our thought patterns. And this is the CBC I want.
For the Friends of Canadian Broadcasting, it would be a CBC that was more local, less commercial, not so much in the television sense chasing advertising revenues, but being a service for citizens. Balance, credibility, depth.
I actually really like the way that the CBC has made an effort to interact with audiences in newer ways, like the internet. And I love that they put broadcasts on the internet. I love that there's interactive forums on the internet. News is available online. It's the easiest way for me. I don't own a TV. I rarely listen to the radio, but I'm on the line all the time.
I travel enormously, and when I do, one of the great comforts that I have is that I'm able to listen to CBC Radio anywhere in the world over the internet through live streaming and through podcasting. In short, CBC is traveling well with the new platforms available to us.
Now that we have the internet, there are possibilities of engagement, across the country, but it needs, again, that through line, the kind of lightning rod of communication of something like the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation that can bring people together in a focused way and also in an open way.
What the internet does is increases the denominator of all the fractions. It means that there are many, many more choices, and it means it's very, very hard to assemble a substantial audience with shared experience of watching programming. That's why a public broadcaster is so important. And the other thing is, as we get more concentrated private media, we have fewer points of view, and it makes something that is not completely beholden to chasing eyeballs and ears more important than ever before.
CBC really needs and is getting into new media in a very big way, but it shouldn't only be informative. It's got to be creative. It's got to be artistic. There's nothing wrong with being artistic and imaginative and connective.
It's so important to have the world interpreted through the eyes of your country, but also interpreted without bias, interpreted with intelligent reporting that is deep, investigative, that is not just a bunch of sound bites. It breaks my heart to see that element disappearing in our national broadcaster. The people have been cut, the programs have been cut. I want those people back. I want those programs back. I want that element increased.
My vision of the CBC is one that emphasizes depth, fills in the background stories for what's happening in the world. Why is it happening? Not just what's happening, but why are we having the Arab Spring? Why are we having 500,000 students in Quebec? This is where the CBC comes in. Investigative journalism, documentaries, all that kind of stuff.
In the 25 countries that belong to the OECD, the richer Western democracies, Canada is fifth from the bottom. Now we're ahead of a couple of other countries. I mean, Poland comes to mind, the United States of America. But if I mentioned Germany, France, Italy, Australia, Japan, United Kingdom, Holland, Sweden, Denmark, those countries all invest a lot more in public broadcasting per capita and as a share of their wealth than we Canadians do.
They're cutting back on foreign correspondence. I don't think they want to. In fact, I can guarantee you they don't want to. They would love to have as many foreign correspondents as possible. But no, they're not going in that direction. But I don't really blame the organization for that. I think there's external pressures that are making them do that.
I think the current dilemma, the current fight, the current struggle, the current conversation about CBC is a broader conversation about public space in Canada. Because it's a public broadcaster, it is public space in the media. Like a park in a city is public space. Media plays a bigger and bigger part in our lives, in young people's lives, in all our connected lives. Do we want, this is the debate, do we want a smaller public space in the media? Do you want a smaller and smaller park in the city? You have to understand the role that public space plays in a democracy. It is vital to have public space in a democracy. And if you follow a political model like the United States, which yanks most of the public space out and it becomes private space, competing private interests, private lobbying, you actually get a corrosion of democracy. So the public space is a very important part to play.
Well, there really are just two functions that it plays. And by the way, this is not unique to Canada. This would apply to most of the Western democracies, from Japan to Germany to Switzerland to Australia. The one is that it facilitates democracy by helping people to be more informed in depth about issues that they face. And the other is that it facilitates a kind of patriotism or identity in each country by enabling people to share experiences and stories and to feel the emotion of belonging. So belonging, democracy, nothing else.
Public space also does another thing. Public space, like a park in the city, anyone goes there. We all go to parks. Old people, young people, people with bikes, people with dogs. It's a place for everyone. And in the broadcast environment, a public space that is for everyone is vitally important.
We're a very large country, large in every sense, in the sense that we have variety, in the sense that there is so many components to us. And there has to be a way that our voice is distinctive, that it's heard, that it allows us to speak and give our voice out. And in so many ways, the CBC, as it was, as it is, and as it will be in the future, is going to be that voice.
I think because it's for generations has done things that have changed the lives of Canadians. It has linked people in the far expanses of the country, people in Newfoundland knowing about what's going on in Alberta, people in Kirkland Lake understanding Vancouver Island, all that kind of thing. Plus telling Canadian stories, famous people like Veronica Tennant, reaching out and making us proud of our distinct identity on the northern half of the continent, things like that.
There has to be something that reflects our pulse, our heartbeat, our thought patterns. And this is the CBC I want. The CBC that has many, many voices and in the end becomes a truly connective and identifying voice of Canada and its Canadians.
The CRTC has fumbled the ball for a number of years, but they've announced that on November 19, they're holding a major public hearing about the future of public broadcasting in this country. What are our expectations and demands on the CBC? So this is a chance to speak up, to say what you think is important, where a major arm's length institution will be listening to you and has the muscle to compel the CBC to respond.